They were being decimated right and left. Why? Because a new toy line was coming out. I mean, that's basically the bottom line for this show. Even though the shows were done really well, they were done to sell toys. That's what it was all about. So I was upset. Now, I was happy in a way because Bumblebee lived through the movie. So I made it through the film, and I was able to do the dance number at the end, which was kind of crazy too. But that's the story with Corey's little expletive that was told to me by Wally. So I assume is the correct answer.
Thank you. So long story short, blame Corey Burton.
It was Corey's fault.
Yeah.
By the way, Corey's a great talent. Corey, I mean, how do you go from Spike to Brawn? I mean, that's range, you know. Frank Welker, of course, is brilliant. But Corey really is a really fine talent, and it was a pleasure to work with him. It still is. I see him occasionally, and he's very shy. He's very withdrawn. But when he gets into the character, he explodes. It's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, anybody else?
Next question.
Anyone?
I got a question.
Yes.
You voiced more than Bumblebee. You voiced a bunch of other Autobots. What was the audition process for additional Autobots like? Did they just give it to you, or did you have to?
Yeah.
That's interesting. There was no audition process. When the characters came along, a lot of different characters came along during the run of the show. And sometimes they had a couple of lines or just a few episodes and they were out. That's all you saw of them. So for those really limited characters, Wally would stop the recording. And in those days, we were allowed to do 3 voices for the same price as 1 voice. So Wally would say, okay, so we had a new character, you know, Buzzsaw or whatever. He'd say, okay, Buzzsaw, who has less than 3 voices? And Frank would never hold up his hand because Frank was doing 12 voices. And so whoever didn't have 3 voices would say, I'm only doing 2. And they'd say, okay, can you give me a Buzzsaw thing? And so you'd go like, hey, yeah, this is Buzzsaw. And you go, yeah, that's fine, you're Buzzsaw. And that's how it was done. For the larger characters, they did have actual casting calls, like for Hot Rod and those kind of guys. For the larger roles, they always had casting calls. But for the smaller characters, for the characters who didn't do a lot, they were just assigned on the fly. As a matter of fact, it's weird because I did Outback, but Greg Berger also claims to have done Outback. And what I think happened is one of us was not at the session. And they said, you know, Gilvezan's not here. Greg, can you do Outback for us? Or it might have been the other way around, I'm not sure. But apparently we both did that character.
I thought they just lost track.
No.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, I know. No, I think that's what happened, is one or the other of us weren't at the session, so they said, yeah, you do it, it'll be fine. So that's the story on how those roles were assigned. Anybody else? Yes.
Do you have a favorite episode?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. Where's that one I signed over here? Where's the VHS? Oh, I guess I'll have to. Transport to Oblivion.
Yeah.
Because that was yay! I know, it was really good, wasn't it? I was especially good, I thought. But don't you? He
You were the best one there, Dan.
He nodded. Transport to Oblivion, because that was the first one where Bumblebee had a lot to do with Spike, and I had a lot of fun with that episode. Here's an interesting bit that I don't think I've ever shared at any convention. And what reminded me was these VHS tapes, which were produced after the show started to run. They took the first 13 episodes and they put them out as VHS tapes. Now, we're all Screen Actors Guild members, and that's who covered this, who covered recording for animation. And we had just signed a new contract that said we get a piece of the action for any sales, any ancillary sales that are done, like tapes and that kind of stuff. It was a brand new thing. Nobody had done it. Nobody knew what to expect. I go out to my mailbox one day, one bright and sunny day, and there's a pile of checks in there from the sale of these. Each one of the checks from the 13 episodes was like $1,200. 15. It was like $18,000 sitting in my mailbox that I had not expected. The cast starts going, "Did you open your mail today? Did you think it was in the mail? Did you get your mail today?" And we were amazed. I mean, you talk about a gift in this business, and it was insane. So I don't think I've ever shared that before, and that's part of this business too. You never know, what's going to happen. And that was quite a treat for me. As a matter of fact, I still have a few of those checks. I never cashed them. Anybody else?
Question.
Questions? Comments?
Concern.
Insults?
I do have a question. As many know, I'm a fan of Bumblebee, but I also drive a Bumblebee Camaro. So, what is your impression of Bumblebee now? And were you a fan of how it evolved from how you portrayed Bumblebee to how he is now to little kids nowadays?
No, the only true Bumblebee is the Volkswagen. I knew I could get away with that in this room. And this is probably the only place I could get away with it. Well, as many of you know, what happened was Volkswagen refused to lend the rights to them after the series was over because they realized they didn't want to be involved in a, quote, war series, and which was odd because we did 95 episodes as the Volkswagen to begin with, so apparently they got their moral sense kicked in after that. So they couldn't get the rights, so they had to, in the animated series, they had to kind of genericize the car, and then of course it became the Camaro. I think it's great. I saw the first movie and I thought the CGI was amazing. I thought it was incredible to see those robots in, quote unquote real life. I went to Universal Studios. I don't know how many of you went on the ride. The ride, I walked out of there like my eyeballs were crossed. It was like getting slammed in the face with an iron for 5 minutes. I mean, those things were in your face. I was like, wow, really, that's intense. So I thought the movies were terrific. I mean, I started to watch the second one and I thought, this sucks. So I didn't make it. I understand the third one was better, so that's good. And there will be more, of course, because they're making bucks. I will say this: I'm grateful to Michael Bay for bringing this to people's attention because it's really kicked off this whole resurgence of Transformers. I don't think this would be anywhere near as big without his films. So we owe him that, at least. And I know most of the fans, are very disparaging of the films. They don't like them. They're G1 fans, or they're Beast War fans, or whatever. But without those films, I don't think half of us would be in this room. I really don't. Or there probably wouldn't be an event in this room. Yeah. So we do have to thank him for that.
Were you ever approached by Michael Bay?
I was. Oh, I wasn't approached by Michael Bay, but they did have us audition, and I did read for Bumblebee. Ultimately, was not chosen, of course. He has one line in the first movie, which is done. I forget who did it, and it's a much deeper voice. Okay, and he sucked. And I know that's a joke. I auditioned as the regular Bumblebee voice, and I think it worked in the animated series. But I think to hear that high-pitched sort of voice come out of that giant hunk of metal, might have just not been right. Also, producers like to put their own stamp on things. They don't want to feel like they've got somebody's sloppy seconds. They want to do their version. So I think part of it was that he wanted to get away from the animated version. Of course, they kept Peter, which was a brilliant thing. And Peter is Optimus.
That's right.
I I can't. So I can't imagine anyone else doing that role. And by the way, Peter's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I don't know how many of you have met him at conventions. A few of you. He was great to work with. I just saw him not too long ago. We had a nice chat about the show, and he's just one of the sweetest people that I've ever worked with. So God bless him, and I'm sure he'll keep doing Optimus for as long as as long as they need him, or as long as Optimus is around. Anybody else? Yes.
I have another question.
Okay.
So after the Generation 1 series ended, as a character, Bumblebee was absent for most of the series that followed it up until the 2007 movie. And he was so immensely popular that all versions of him came back, in the video games, mostly based on the Generation 1, and now you're doing the voice for Devastation. So for a lot of these cartoon series from the 80s that were supposed to be 13 episodes and done, probably wouldn't get picked up again, can you talk about what it's like to have been not only a part of something that was huge back then, but has lasted for 30 years, is now part of a new generation, and you're still sort of the focal key part of that?
Well, we were the beginning. I mean, we were the very beginning. We were like we were like Henry Ford in the car. We were there at the very start of this thing. And as I said, with the Michael Bay movies, it's kept it going on. This thing is now, it has become part of our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Mickey Mouse. I mean, I don't mean it's Mickey Mouse. I mean, there is.
There's a transformer that Mickey Mouse is the robot mode.
Yeah, don't interrupt me again. We'll let him in. So it's become part of the culture, and it's very gratifying, of course, to have been part of it. But, and I've said this before, and other actors have said the same thing, like the Star Trek people and those folks. It was a job for us, and we enjoyed it, but nobody ever expected this to go on like this. I mean, I did a raft of shows in the 80s because all these toy companies, after G.I. Joe and the Transformers, said, wow, I want to have a 65-episode series for my toy line too, so I can sell a lot of toys. So it was a golden age for voiceover. I mean, I did tons and tons we did Dino Riders and Sectars and G.I. Joe, and I guested on just a bunch of other series that were tied to toy lines. Many of them, or most of them, have been forgotten. But this thing goes on and on and on. And I think one of the reasons is, and I talk about this in the book. Let me just plug this book real quick. This book, which we're selling here for the tiny price of $15, autographed. Yes, it's true. I like your button. It's nice. He's wearing a button. It's not, I know, it's good. It's good. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, what was I talking about?
Book.
Oh, no, but there was something in the book that I wanted to reference. Well, never mind, it wasn't important. What? He keeps interrupting me. I wish, somebody could.
It was about the other episodes you've made with the toy line.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this one has legs. The G.I. Joe has gone on as well. There's a big fan base around Gem, which I also did.
Hey, my daughters like Jeff.
What happened with Shane? Shane just shrunk by about 4 inches.
Okay, who here has seen the Gem trailer? It's not Gem.
Oh, I see what's happening.
It's like Panama.
All right, I understand.
Didn't they film that like in 3 months?
But anyway, so some of these have gone on. None of them are as popular, including G.I. Joe, are as popular as Transformers. And once again, I think the movies had a lot to do with that. So, yes.
Is there a moment when you realized that this was huge, like your first fan interaction, or someone might have recognized you as Bumblebee?
Yeah, well, when I did my first convention, which was BotCon, and it was before it was called BotCon. Joselle, what was the name of it? Do you remember? Hey, my wife is here, by the way, Joselle. Let's say hi to Joselle.
Hey,
hi, Joselle. Well, that's pretty much what happens at home too. So. That was when I realized how large this had become. When all these people came up to me and said, thank you so much, and it was really sweet to hear. But I had no idea that it had become as big as it was, and it's growing more and more. And with these guys, I mean, we've got another generation coming up who's watched it thanks to Netflix and the DVDs and stuff. We got G1 fans who are 4 years old. It's amazing. And I think, oh, I know what I was going to say. Part of the great thing about Transformers is it's so friggin' cool. It's not just robots, which are cool anyway. It's robots that turn into other stuff. That's really ultra cool. So there was that whole engineering thing where you got the toy in your hand, and it was like, look how this thing goes, and it turns from, a robot into, a car or a plane or even a tape, a cassette tape. That's part of the reason too, I think, and you guys got to agree with me as fans. I mean, it's just a cool concept, and I think that's part of the popularity too. Anybody else?
It was cool, but it was also like the personality that you guys, as the cast, breathed into the character.
Well, I gotta say,
that was like
yeah, you know what? This was really designed to sell toys. That's what this whole series was about. But it was really done well. I mean, a lot of thought was put into these characters. The casting, I think, was excellent as far as the different character voices. But the way they were written, they all had their distinct personalities. And that's a testament to the writers and the producers who did the original show. It was quite an accomplishment. In fact, when I first auditioned for this show, I thought, oh great, one of these animated series to sell toys. And then when I read the scripts for the thing, I thought, wow, this is really done well. And then when I started, they showed us a few early cuts from the first couple of episodes, and I thought, this is done really well. This is going to be interesting. So a lot of thought was put in it, and a lot of production value was put into that show. So that's another reason I think it caught on the way it did. Anybody else?
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Very basic one. Have you yourself ever owned a Volkswagen Bug?
You mean a drivable Volkswagen Bug?
Yes, drivable.
No.
All right. Kickstarter. We're going to start it later today. We're going to get a Volkswagen.
Oh, I got a Volkswagen? Cool. It's got to be yellow. I did have. Okay. I did, and I'm one of these nuts who really loved the characters that he played. I did Spider-Man on Spider-Man and
Yeah! My favorite. I just want to. You're welcome.
You're a good man. And I was really proud of that because I was a big Spider-Man fan going into it. I as a kid, I got all the comic books and I loved it, and I was really thrilled to be it. So when I got Bumblebee, I went to Toys R Us and I bought a whole bunch of Bumblebee, what do you call it, mint on card. Yeah, mint on.
Mint on card.
Yeah, mint on card. And over the years, I gave them away to people, and I really would like to have them back because they're worth a whole bunch of money. What are mint on cards original G1 Bumblebees going for?
Somebody knows here.
Like 100?
600 and 700 bucks. Yeah, I had like a dozen of them. And over the years, I gave them to my nephews and stuff like that. So I have none left. But I did have some in my hot little hands.
I'll trade you.
Good Lord, that's unbelievable. And they'll only go up from there. You know that. The people who played with those toys were just foolish. I don't understand what those kids were thinking.
What were you thinking, guys? It's so fun.
Yeah, we're thinking we're trying to have fun, and this is a toy, and that's what it's made for. Did I see a hand?
Oh, this thing, me, I have one. I played with it.
Oh,
I got one.
All right. Yeah, there's one right there.
Next question.
Anybody?
I had one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you speak on your work about devastation?
Please.
Yeah, Transformers Devastation is going to be freaking awesome, you guys. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how many of you have gone on YouTube to see the trailers, but it's pretty impressive. They've really caught the flavor of the G1 series. It's not flat animation, of course, because it needs to be more 3D, but the characters look just awesome. They got Michael Bell, Frank Welker, Peter, of course, and Greg Berger and myself to reprise our roles. You're going to love this game. You're going to love this game. Just the lines that I recorded as Bumblebee are so cool, and so much of the character they left in there. He's got these asides where he says like, he'll say something like, "Take that!" Oh, that was a good one. You know, they really kept the characters alive that way. So you're going to love this game. It's going to be really great. And I had such a ball performing that character again. I mean, it was amazing to go back to it after, what, 35 years? Something like that.
So the follow-up, you're saying that these game developers are honoring the spirit of the original.
Absolutely. They have done a remarkable job building this game. Not only that, it's a lot of fun to play. I mean, it looks, I mean, you can go instantaneously almost from a robot to a car and, you know, pound your enemy as a robot and then pound him as a car in the next several seconds. So it's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to playing it myself. Yes?
What did you think after the 1986 movie when they made you change roles from Bumblebee to Goldbug?
Hated it. You know what? This has been asked before. I didn't like it one little bit. I thought, why are you doing this? And the answer was, we are going to sell more toys. You know, we're going to keep the mold, but we're going to cast it in a gold. I thought it was unnecessary. It didn't really change the character. You know, I didn't change the voice. Well, yeah, it kept me alive, and that's true. But as I said, I made it through the film without dying, so I was happy about that. But it just seemed unnecessary to me. And of course, in the G1 game, in Transformers Devastation, he's back to the yellow Volkswagen, which is what he should be, I think. You know, it's just my opinion, of course. Yeah. Did you?
That was actually the question.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Can you do the voice on the G1 Bumblebee?
Can I do the voice of G1 Bumblebee? You bet I can.
On Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got out of that studio and I was talking like this for the rest of the day. I love that little guy. I mean, he's so plucky. He's got such a great attitude, such great energy, and it was such a great deal of fun to come back to that character. I've had 2 sessions where we did the lines. I don't know if you know, in video games, you're all done separately, so it's not like the old days when we were all together, which was a whole other thing. You know, that was a whole other kettle of fish. That was a lot of fun with everybody in the recording. So we do it all separately, but just to go through those lines and just to keep in that character was such fun. And I guarantee you guys, this game is going to blow you away. It's awesome. Anybody else? No?
The one who's not supposed to talk.
All right, Kellen, I'll allow it for the moment.
No, I'm not supposed to talk, according to Paul Reinhardt. Now swearing excluded. What was your favorite? It could be a funny anecdote or something, but what was your favorite moment in the studio? Like something that you remember to this day.
For those of you who purchased the book, there's a bunch of that stuff in there, anecdotes about the show, and we had a wild time. It was pretty crazy in there because there were so many of us in the recording booth at the same time, and everybody's a performer and everybody's geared up to do the show. So there were lines flying like crazy. One of my favorite things was Frank Welker used to do this to the engineer, and it was lots of fun.
Oh my God.
Frank, as you know, is probably the most talented voiceover actor working today. He's the Mel Blanc of today. This guy can do anything. He does monsters, he does dragons, he does dogs, he does cats, he does a cricket that'll have you looking in the corner of the room for it. I mean, it's so real. He can do the effect of a mic cutting out. So, other words, he's doing it much better than I can do. And he also does feedback. So in the middle of recording, he would start this feedback, and the engineer starts going, oh, shit, something's feeding back. He's looking all over his panel, he's playing with the buttons, and Frank is in the booth, and you know, like a ventriloquist who doesn't look like he's going, like he's looking for it too. Everybody's cracking up. The engineer comes in, starts looking at his plugs. Are these in right? What's wrong? And finally, of course, he finds out that Frank's been pranking him the entire time, and was incredibly pissed off. But you know, that's the kind of stuff that went on in those recordings. You got Michael Bell. Michael Bell is one of the God, what a wise ass he is. He's such a Michael can cut you down and make you laugh to death while he's doing it. He's got an incredible wit. So he and Frank were always doing stuff back and forth. And Peter was like, Peter's got this laugh. He goes, so he'd be constantly, Frank would be saying something, Peter would say something, and you'd hear Peter in the middle. It was wild. It was a wild time. It was a wild time and a lot of fun. Anyway, I miss that too, because as I said, the video games are all recorded separately, and we don't really have that kind of experience anymore. So it's too bad. It's too bad for us. Anybody else? I'm gonna wrap this thing up if nobody's got something.
One last question.
I'm sorry, 3 is the limit.
That-
Oh, this is your third one. Okay.
So in addition to your prolific voice acting credits, you've also done a lot of live action TV episodes and whatnot. How do you compare the two, doing voice acting? Like, what's different about voice acting versus live acting, and how do you approach both? And do you have a preference for one over the other?
Well, yeah, there's a big difference between the two. Obviously, you don't have the physical aspect to use during voiceovers. So it depends on the project, actually. Some of them are more, you'll notice this too, some of them are more cartoony, some of them are more real. So you have to adjust your vocal performance for however the director wants you to do it. Now, Transformers was a very hyped up show. There was a lot of energy, there was a lot of battles and that kind of stuff. So that's the energy that we needed to play it. I've done other more intimate shows where it's almost as if you were doing an on-camera role. And when you're doing on-camera TV, everything is very small. I remember the first time that I was on the set. It was Hill Street Blues that I did a few episodes of. And I remember I was standing off to the side, and I was a stage actor. So that's how I started. And so I was used to, now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this sun of yore. I was used to that. They're doing the scene over here, not 15 feet away. I couldn't hear it. I'm going, how is that possible? That's the way it is with TV and movie acting. You can do a scene like this, where it's so intimate, because the microphone is right there. And that's a real adjustment that I had to make as a performer, as an actor, because I had a tendency to be too big, and the director would constantly be pulling me back until I got that camera was right here, and the microphone was right there, and you really didn't need to do much. In fact, if you did a lot, it looked stupid. So there's a big difference between on-camera, stage, voice. They're all different techniques, but it all goes back to the original, the stage. That's where it all comes from. And that's, for those of you who are thinking about a career in this business or in voiceover, take acting classes. Don't just take voice classes, take acting classes, and really get into that, because that will help you. That will help you perform in the voiceover world as well. Anyone else?
Got one
Yes,
more.
Shane.
This is just because I like doing this. What is the oddest thing that you've ever had a fan ask you to sign? Because I personally have a coffee maker with 3 or 4 different Transformers voice actors signed by it, and it always gets an eyebrow raise.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
A guy maybe.
You're weird.
Yeah, you weird, Shane.
I know that.
I guess the weirdest thing was somebody had me sign his arm. I mean, which was odd. I've signed for ladies. I've signed just above the important part, up in here. Body parts, I guess, is the strangest thing I've ever been asked to sign. And somebody had a bumblebee. This was really quite a compliment. Somebody had a bumblebee tattoo, and they wanted me to sign it so that they could go to the tattoo artist and have them tattoo it so it would be permanent. So I thought that was great. I charged them a great deal of money for that. If this is gonna last for the next 80 years, I want some dough, dude. Yeah, that's right. Arm residuals. Every time you show this to someone, I want you to give me $2. That's how we are. Anyone else? Anybody else? Going? Gone. Okay. This is going to wrap up this part. We're going to stay, Giselle and I will stay for another 15, 20 minutes to get anybody else taken care of that needs to be. We still have books, we have pictures, we have free buttons. So come see us if you haven't seen us already, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.